Happy video day, guys. Christina Brooke here, and today we're going to be doing a make up your mind. This one has been so highly requested. You guys, right when you guys found the images of the brand new Natasha Denona CIRCO LOCO palette going all over Instagram, I got so many DMs from you guys saying, Christina, the swatches are out. Let's do a make up your mind. And I was so excited because I was like, yes, I cannot wait. So basically today we're going to be going over the brand new release from Natasha Denona. So Natasha Denona is releasing a brand new eyeshadow palette, which I kind of knew about and told you guys about in my 1 year, one brand update. It's basically called the CIRCO LOCO. Okay, and this is going to be a 15 pan eyeshadow palette similar to the Safari. It's going to be around probably $129 US. And somebody actually found this palette being sold in Sephora somewhere in Europe, and she already did a whole video on it and everything. I'm going to go ahead and link it down below. And the swatches that we're going to be using today are the swatches from her video. So I was so excited to be able to get an actual look at this palette. You know, I had seen images of what it was going to look like, but I couldn't see it super clear. Now I see it super clear. So today we're going to go through my collection and we're going to kind of try to mimic this color story. So I do this every time a brand new release is coming out, just so I can get an idea of what the color story is going to look like. I'm not trying to like dupe the palette and say like you can use these palettes instead. This is more for me to kind of get an idea if I like the colors in a palette before I go and invest in buying the whole palette. And at the end of these videos, I make up my mind and tell you guys, do I think I want to pick up this palette or I think I'm going to skip out on it. Now, if you guys are following along with my one brand 1 year challenge, then you guys know Natasha Denona won for the year. So I'm picking up every new release that she launches. So yeah, spoiler alert, whether I like this palette or not, I'm picking it up. But I will definitely tell you guys if I would have picked it up if the scenario was different and I didn't challenge myself to pick up all her new releases. So anyways, let's go ahead and let's get into it. But before we do, hit subscribe, join the family. I would love to see you again, and let's get into it. Okay, so first thing I always do, guys, is I show you guys the results. So here are my results. This is how close I was able to come to the brand new CIRCO LOCO palette from Natasha Denona. And I'm gonna tell you guys, this one was not easy. Most of the time I can go to 3 or 4 palettes, you know, because a color story kind of has repeated itself, and most palettes have like a very similar theme, and then every once in a while they throw in these pops of color, so you have to go into a different palette. But in this case, this palette is literally loco. Like literally it's like crazy. Like it's a crazy palette. This was such a perfect timing to release this. Like literally it's like nothing we have ever seen from Natasha Denona, and she like created the craziest thing in the universe during one of the craziest years I have ever lived through. So yeah, releasing this in 2021 was probably very smart of her. It's a crazy color story. So let me show you guys quickly the palettes that I had to go into, and there was multiple ones. I jumped into the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice. I actually used the My Little Pony from Colourpop. You guys know I gifted this to my daughter, so this is her play palette, and I probably will not show you guys the inside of it because it's... Then we used the Colourpop Aren't You Glad? I used the Violet Voss Rainbow. Natasha Denona's Lila gave me like one color. I had to jump into the Sephora Pro, which I actually thought that the editorial, this one, was going to give me so many colors, and it didn't. Celestial Divinity also gave me like 2 colors. And finally, Natasha Denona's Mini Tropic. Now, a lot of you guys right now are saying, wait a minute, Christina, you forgot the main palette. You forgot about the Club Nebula palette. And I'm sure a lot of you guys right now are saying, hello, we wanted to see how similar it is to that. Now, I tried to use the Club Nebula because I thought the same as you guys. Well, there has to be some similarities. As I was looking for these colors, the Club Nebula didn't have similar colors. Now, that's not to say that you're not going to be able to create somewhat similar looks with this palette, but at the end of the day, when I was looking for the color story, this palette did not have the colors. When I get into my thoughts, I'm going to give you guys more information about this palette compared to the CIRCO LOCO, and I'll also talk a little bit about Celestial Divinity. Hold on for that. First, let's figure out how we got these colors, and let's talk about the colors in general. So let's start off with the first color. So the first color is orange. Okay, So now when I looked at it, it's orange, but like a pumpkin. So pumpkin spice, why not? And they actually did come out with the color pumpkin spice. Pumpkin spice, in my opinion, does look very similar. I did swatch it right here, and when you see it, it's a very similar tone. So looking at that color, I was already kind of like, okay, we've got an orange. I feel like I could deal with an orange, okay? So oranges you can use to create some really cool like sunrise, sunset. You mix it with browns, it could look really, really, really awesome. It also could be mixed with like deep burgundies. The color story that she created here is a little bit more difficult to play with orange. I do have a similar look on today that you could probably create if you purchase the Circo Loco, because all of the colors on my eyes are colors that I got from this color story that I mimicked. And I'm gonna say the orange I used to smoke out the outer edge, but we'll keep going. For the next one, what I did was I jumped into the Lila palette from Natasha Denona, and I jumped into the color called Magnetic, was this one right here. You guys know my love for metallic magentas, and yeah, this is a metallic magenta-y looking color. I looked at the swatch. I also looked at the image of the palette, and it looks like it's going to be a pretty metallic-y magenta-y color. It actually might even be more pink, more magenta. Now, the first two colors, orange and pinks, they do look really pretty together. Do I tend to wear them a lot on the lids? I usually do not, but they do complement each other, orange and pink. So a metallic and a matte, those two are okay. But then we get into the next color. So for the next one, the only color that I could find in my collection similar was inside of Mini Tropic. Now this poor palette has been through the ringer. It literally fell and broke. So I'm gonna try not to open it, but this color right here called Tiger Lily. When you swatch Tiger Lily, it actually comes off lighter than it appears in the pan. Looking at her swatch, this looks like it's going to be a lighter blue, almost like this, and this is Tiger Lily. So because Tiger Lily dries out, I feel like the color looks similar. So I think it's gonna be something similar to that. With these colors, no. I mean, I think you guys see where I'm going here. This is like a total add-on palette more than it is like a standalone. It's a cool color. I don't like blue. I'm not a huge fan of blue. I've never been a big fan of blue on the lids. Every time I see blue, I always think of the Drew Carey show. I don't know if you guys remember the Drew Carey show, but yeah, I think of Mimi. You know, so like when I think of blue, I just go, ooh, blue. So I don't know, I have this thing with blue. I try to do it, and I do it every once in a while for you guys, and sometimes it comes out really cool, but I do have like this little thing with blue shadows. So the next one is also going to be a take on a blue, but it's gonna be like a metallic-y blue. Now, I think that this icy looking color is absolutely stunning. The only palette that I have in my collection that has something similar is the My Little Pony palette, and I will just quickly show you the color, but please, please, this color right here, okay? Lexi literally swipes these all together, but it's this color. This was my favorite color in the My Little Pony palette, okay? I loved this color. I just didn't think it was worth savoring this palette just for that color because she really wanted it. But this color right here is so gorgeous. So honestly, this icy blue, now we're going somewhere, because I can see myself putting that icy blue on and then sharpening out the outer edge with a really deep blue, which is the one that looks like Tiger Lily. These two right here, now we're kind of going on a, okay. Now I will say that in the Club Nebula, there's something similar, but, oh, did I break a... Oh no, Club Nebula broke one of the shadows. No! It's a sad day when an eyeshadow gets destroyed. But anyways, you could do something similar, kind of using this color Void here, and this one right here called Nova kind of switches to like a lighter blue. So there's like some similarities, but it's just not the exact colorway. It's not the exact color tones. I think this color is very pretty. So the next one, we stay in the blues. So at least we have like you know, at least the same colors going here. What I ended up doing was going into the Violet Voss Rainbow palette, and I do feel like I was able to use this quite a bit. I jumped into the color Royal, which is a royal kind of metallic blue. It has metallic to it, it's just not super metallic. The Natasha Denona one is probably going to be a lot better because I love her formula. So this is also a cool color. Now, I'm gonna tell you, when it comes to these deep metallic blues, sometimes I have a hard time with them because I usually like my metallics to pop a little bit, and when they're so deep, sometimes I don't like to use them because I want to use the brighter shades. So I see myself using this metallic blue like an all over lid shade when I'm trying to do something super dramatic. So far, honestly, the palette is going in a very blue direction right now, which is not making me happy. Now we get into another color that I ended up going into the pumpkin spice, and I got it in this color called Fall Vibes. Now I feel like I could find this color in a bunch of different palettes, but it looked like a true gold. I love gold, especially when it's done like this, when it's not like very yellow. I like it, and I do not think that this one's going to be very yellow. I think it's more of a bronzy kind of gold, which I like more than yellow gold. So that's what I think. I hope so. And now, you know, it's kind of saving a little bit because now I can kind of see myself maybe using the gold with the orange, which is what I did today. I put the gold down and I smoked out with the orange. So it's kind of like, at least I feel like I could see a few different colorways that I can do right now. Then the next color kind of threw me for a little loop again because I was like, whoa, now here goes another colorful thing. You know, we went into Seafoam in Violet Voss, which is kind of like a green metallic. This one, I'm not sure how green it's really going to be, if it's going to be a little bit more blue. But since this Seafoam color, in my opinion, is like a teal, I think it's going to be something similar to that, because looking at her swatch versus looking at the actual image of the palette, I just went for this one and I said it's going to be something similar to that. Definitely not a shade I use on a daily basis, but it's a cool shade. Definitely probably one of the more original shades in the palette for sure. Then when we go to the next one, the next one is where I jumped into Celestial Divinity, which I didn't think I was going to use too much, and I didn't really, but this beautiful orangey tone right here is the color that I picked for this one. It gives you a really nice orange metallic, and I think it looks a little bit deeper, this one, but there's like more than one metallic orange in this palette. So that one I like. I think it's pretty. I could see myself using that. Now, when we go on to the next two, the next two are the shades that you would put down as base shades, but you can also use these to create like more pastel-y looks. So the first one is one that looks a little bit more like a powdery blue. Honestly, guys, I do not own powdery blue. I looked everywhere and I had one that looked kind of close, but it wasn't powdery enough. What I ended up just doing is saying, you know what, let me just jump into the color Laguna, this one right here inside of the Tropic, the mini Tropic, and jump into the color Whipped Cream inside of this palette, which is this top shade right here. And when you mix them together, you create a powdery blue. So that's how I was able to see the powdery blue color, was mixing those two shades together. Also in the Club Nebula, you guys probably remember there's a blue in here, but this blue is not powdery enough. That one almost looks teal. So this was more powdery. So I ended up being able to do it that way, seeing this powdery blue. I feel like this is gonna show up on my lids. I honestly don't see myself using the powdery blue a lot. The next one is a very powdery pink. Now, powdery pinks I do like. I love powdery pinks. I think they could be really nice. This one I feel like is a little bit pinker than I would have liked, but what I did to create it was I jumped into the pumpkin spice and I just grabbed a la mode and this color right here and mixed them together. That gives you a very powdery pink, and that's how I was able to see the tone. I do think for the palette, you can use this one for a bunch of different looks as an undertone. You can use it with the oranges. You can also use it with the purples. So I'm happy it's there. I almost feel like these two mattes were like, okay, let's put the blue one so you can mix them with the blue colors, and let's put the pink one so you can mix it with the purples and the oranges. So that's kind of where I see that went there. Then the next one is another metallic orange. Aren't You Glad palette. And I grabbed this color right here. This is a more metallic-y orange. So if you guys can, it's a little bit of a lighter orange than the other one, if you guys can see. That's why I grabbed it. I don't know why there's two metallic-y oranges. On the swatches I see that were released, they almost look even closer than these two. I'm hoping that they have a little bit more of a difference, but they look like they might not, but hopefully they do. So that's how I was able to get that one. Now going on for the rest of the palette, now I'm starting to see almost like more looks coming about. Like when I started swatching the next colors, I was like, okay, now I'm starting to put things together. It's almost like it kind of like pulled stuff together for me. So the next one I jumped into Pumpkin Spice. I feel like Pumpkin Spice was used a lot for this palette, but I use this color called Spice of Life, very deep purple, but it's like verging on Barney, but it's not Barney yet. So it's acceptable for me, but that's the color that I was able to grab that kind of looks similar. Now, this color I think was important. I think that this is going to be a nice deepening shade for a lot of the looks that you would do with the oranges. I personally would not use purple and blue together. You could definitely use it with the pinks. You could use it with the oranges, but I personally wouldn't use it with the blues. So this is kind of like a different section, you know? So then the next color I think is beautiful. So this might be like one of the most unique shades, at least looking at the color itself. I was like, that looks cool. So what I did was I jumped into the Sephora Pro, and I do have a color that kind of resembles it in this shade right up here. It's a really cool looking metallic light lilac-y purple. Very, very interesting. Now, the Sephora Pro, not my favorite formula. So to have it in Natasha Denona is actually kind of cool. It's the color that I actually put in the inner part of my eyes today. So it's really, really cool. I do like it. I would love to see it in Natasha. And I do feel like right now I'm like, okay, I'm kind of liking this, okay? It kind of like changes a little bit. So for the next color, I jumped right back into Celestial Divinity, and I grabbed this beautiful metallic purple up here that's just insanely gorgeous from, oh my God, Celestial Divinity, guys, is just like everything. And this beautiful purple is what I think it's gonna look like. It's gonna be a metallic-y purple. I don't know what shift it's gonna have, but it's definitely gonna be a metallic purple, and that's what I was able to find. Then she decided to end it with one of my favorite colors. We have like a magenta matte here. So this looks very similar to the You Spicy inside of the Too Faced Pumpkin Spice, just a matte magenta color. I do think that hers is gonna be a little brighter than the color that's in the Too Faced palette, but at least I can kind of get a vibe of what it's gonna look like. And this is what I think it's going to look like. What are my thoughts? Here's the thing. Here's the thing, I'm having like a hard time deciding if I would have picked up this palette or not, because technically I do not think that these are my colors at all. Like you guys know, I like neutral tones. Every once in a while I do like to play with color. So I do like to have palettes that have color in them, but I'm not like a color connoisseur. Like I don't love color. So this is the thing, this is what kind of gets me confused, is I kind of like the fact that there's just a bunch of random colors in this palette. I would pull this out like the same way that I pull out my Sephora Pro. I never use the Sephora Pro on its own. Like this palette has never been used on its own, like maybe once. Usually I pull this out for the colors when I'm doing like an eye look and I'm like, I want to do an orange like a liner, or I want to add a little bit of pink to the outer edge. I pull this palette out. You bought the Sephora Pro for that reason. This is almost like the same thing, because in my opinion, this color story is chaotic. I do not think that it was meant to be used all together. I think you could, but it would be very, very editorial. Like you're gonna create looks that are extremely editorial. I think like 90% of the population is gonna find this to be a very difficult palette to work with on its own. So that is my theory on this. So would I have purchased this if it wasn't the year of Natasha Denona? I'm gonna make up my mind and say I would have. Okay, so before you guys say, no you wouldn't have, Christina, you don't like those colors. The reason is the Sephora Pro for me has been my go-to colorful palette, but I don't like this formula. So Natasha Denona is like my favorite formula in the world, and she literally created a palette that's just like a bunch of colors. So you're not supposed to use them together. You could. In my opinion, I probably wouldn't as much as using them as an add-on. So it's almost like I kind of want it just so I can have amazing colors in a great formula. Now, here's where I think the issue happened is I wish that this would have been a $65 palette. I don't know why she made it the more expensive palette, because this is not like an investment palette in my opinion. Like, you know, when you're purchasing something like the Biba, or you're purchasing something like even the gold palette, I feel like you're going to go through it a lot and you're going to use it a lot. I understand the price point being higher and the pans being bigger. This one, I feel like, why was it bigger? I also think a lot more people would have purchased it at that price point too versus this more expensive price point. I did know that she did pretty decent with Trio Chrome, but Trio Chrome was a little bit more pastel-y, and I do feel like a lot of those colors worked really well together. This one, in my opinion, just really looks like an add-on. That's how I see it. So when it comes to comparing it to Club Nebula, and I'm so sorry, I can't believe that this thing broke. Club Nebula has like this more like peachy direction and this green direction. And then it also has some blues in it. But if you really look at the palette, you've got a lot of peachies and then you've got like this burgundy. It goes in a different direction. I also feel like there is some more tamed tones in the Club Nebula, whereas this one I feel like it's just all strong. In my personal opinion, I think the Club Nebula might be a little bit more wearable as an all-in-one palette, whereas I think this new CIRCO LOCO is a little local. Like, it's just like everywhere, you know? Like, I don't think it's 100% all-in-one. It's kind of like what I told you guys about Celestial Divinity, that I felt like Celestial Divinity was just like a lot of colors, and it wasn't like 100% like it made sense to use it together. This is like almost like Natasha Denona saw that theory and said, I want to do that, but like to the extreme. But like I always say, guys, at the end of the day, it all depends on how you guys like to wear your makeup and also how you guys like to look at makeup. Since I like to look at makeup more like art, I do like to have colors in different palettes, and I don't mind jumping into a different palette just for a color because that's the way I think of makeup. But if you're somebody who just wants one palette to do your whole eye look and you don't even want to think about jumping into another palette, I would say that this probably does not look like it would probably be the palette for you. But let's see. Of course, I will be having this palette on the channel right when it releases because I'm picking up everything from Natasha Denona. If you guys want to learn more about that challenge, just follow my playlist and see all of the updates I've given you guys. And yeah. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below if you guys are planning on picking this up, if it interests you, and I will talk with you guys later. Bye.